The Summer of SEGA went by in a blur. Same name, different game, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It's the last week of summer, and the last episode in the Summer of SEGA. You had to know this was coming. The best game starring the world's most famous hedgehog. Now, last we left the Genesis, things were going pretty well. So let's take a look at where things went, and get a little history on Sonic the Hedgehog. In 1990, SEGA president Hayao Nakayama ordered AM8, the team responsible for the first Phantasy Star game, to work on a mascot character. SEGA wanted something to compete with Mario, and in 1991, Sonic the Hedgehog was released and bundled with North American Genesis units, replacing Altered Beast as the pack-in title. Sonic was of course a massive success, garnering massive critical praise, and naturally, SEGA went right to work on a sequel. AM8 changed their name to Sonic Team, and partnered up with Sega of America's Sega Technical Institute to work on a sequel. Why STI? Because after Sonic 1, Yuji Naka, creator of the Blue Hedgehog, quit Sega. He came to America shortly thereafter and met with Mark Cerny, then head of STI, now head of Sony's PlayStation 4 division, who offered him a job. So basically, Yuji Naka quit Sega to go to work at Sega. So Sega released Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Genesis and Actually, believe it or not, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was released on the Master System before it hit the Genesis. It's weird, but it's true. Developed by Aspect, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Master System was released in Europe in October of 1992. While the Genesis version of Sonic 2 came out worldwide in November of 1992. And of course, these are our games for this episode. Now, I must stress that unlike Streets of Rage, which we covered last time, these actually are completely different games. Really, the only similarities are that you run fast as Sonic, you collect rings, and Dr. Robotnik is the bad guy. That's really where the similarities end. And this is really for the best. The Genesis Sonic 2 has more stages, bigger stages, a 2-player mode, bonus stages, Super Sonic, and Tails following you around everywhere. There's no way the Master System could have handled that. I mean, just look at what they did with Tails. Yes, he's in the Master System game, but he's captured by Dr. Robotnik, and the goal of the game is to rescue him. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get started with STI and Sonic Team's first sequel in Sega's flagship franchise, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on the Genesis. This is, in my opinion, the best Sonic game ever made. It feels fresh still to this very day. The music is awesome, the stages are huge, the graphics are gorgeous. This is the quintessential Sonic game. It takes everything the original did and added on to it. I don't imagine I need to get too into the mechanics on this one, but for those who may somehow be unawares, it's a platformer, you run fast, collect rings, you fight Dr. Robotnik in a boss machine at the end of each level, and you free your animal buddies. It merits mentioning that Sonic 2 was the first game to feature both Tails and the Spin Dash. It's odd to think there was a time when Sonic existed without those two things, but the first game lacked both. And the Master System game also more or less lacks both. As I said before, Tails is technically in the game, but he's not playable. As for the Spin Dash, it's just not in there, period. Playing as Tails in Sonic 2 is functionally the same as playing as Sonic. But even in the single-player mode, a second player can pick up the other controller and take control of Tails, though the camera doesn't follow him. The two-player versus mode is basically a race. It's not much, but it's a nice addition. Tails also helps you get more rings in the bonus stages. Bonus stages are essential because that's how you collect the Chaos Emeralds, which you need to turn into Supersonic and to get the good ending. Now let's look a little bit more closely at Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Master System, developed by Aspect. Master System Sonic 2 is much different. It has fewer stages, and the stages it does have are much shorter than the ones in the Genesis game. Also, in addition to lacking the spin dash, this version obviates Supersonic. It does keep the Chaos Emeralds, although you collect them differently. Each stage in the Master System is broken into 3 acts. There's a Chaos Emerald hidden somewhere in the second act of each stage. Collecting them all is necessary to reach the true final stage and face Dr. Robotnik. Which brings to mind another big difference. Sonic games in the main series typically have Dr. Robotnik as the end stage boss in each stage, using a different one of his inventions or flying machines or what have you. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 follows suit in this respect. However, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the SMS goes a completely different direction. Each boss is totally different, and none of them really directly involve Dr. Robotnik except for the final boss. You would hope this would make them more interesting, but sadly they're pretty lackluster. Most of them also come at the end of a stage with nothing in it. No rings, no enemies, just some annoying basic platforming, and then the boss. And these stages, like all of the stages in the Master System version, don't have any checkpoints. That's mostly okay due to the stages being short, but it's annoying when you die on a boss and then have to take the time to tromp through an empty stage. And speaking of bosses, this would be a good time to mention that there is a Game Gear version of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Unlike Streets of Rage, which we discussed last episode, this one is exactly the same as the Master System version, with one very large and important difference. Can you see it? The resolution is cut down so much that the game becomes nearly unplayable. The most commonly cited example of this is the Stage 1 boss. I mean, look at this. It goes from a cakewalk to a total disaster. There are a few other minor differences, like the lack of the Super Shoes power-up in the Game Gear version, but nothing worth expounding on. In this day and age, I cannot imagine a reason why you would reach for the Game Gear version before the Master System version. Well, except for the tiny detail that Sega has a nasty tendency of reissuing the Game Gear version much more frequently than the Master System version. The gameplay footage you're seeing I got from the Sonic Gems collection. Why they put that version on here, I have no idea. In fact, really, they could have put the Master System ROM in here and just lied and said it was the Game Gear. There's literally no reason for it, and it's a much worse experience. If you want to play it portably, well, the 3DS Virtual Console has this game, but it's the Game Gear version, and again, I don't know why they would do that. There's more than ample resolution available on the 3DS top screen to supply a full resolution version of the Master System game rather than the Game Gear. And again, they could just lie and say that it's the Game Gear game. The gameplay is identical, but I digress. Let's get back to the matter at hand here. Genesis and Master System. Now, we've weighed a lot of factors so far. There's one important X factor, one big important X factor that you may have noticed I haven't mentioned so far. 3 words: lock on technology. Or maybe that's 2 words with a hyphen. It's possible that I'm out of my purview here, as you can clearly see that when the game is loaded up this way, the name changes to Knuckles the Echidna in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but I'm going with it anyways. So yes, besides lacking playable Tails, the Master System game also lacks playable Knuckles, for obvious reasons. Knuckles can glide and climb walls, and this fundamentally changes how the game is played, making it nearly a new game in and of itself. We're nearly finished here. But like we do, let's go ahead and take a look at the graphics and listen to the sound, side by side. Well, I guess that makes it time to give the edge. It's obviously the Genesis version. This is, in my opinion, and the opinions of many others, the best Sonic game ever made. It hasn't lost a bit in its aging process, I'll tell you that. Now, that does not mean you should disregard this game. Master System Sonic is actually pretty fun, and it's probably something you would consider a hidden gem, especially if you're a big Sonic fan. Yes, it does lack the polish of the Genesis version, but it's still a really enjoyable game. Now, just make sure you play this version and not the Game Gear one. So happy 25th birthday, Sega Genesis. You've brought a lot of joy to us in your 25 years. Now from here, Sega would continue climbing, releasing Sonic 3, Sonic & Knuckles, a host of other games, big success with the Madden franchise, all kinds of things like that. In fact, the heights they reached with the Sega Genesis were untold previous to that, and really since. The Master System continued along. It was discontinued in America, of course, but in certain markets, Brazil and Europe, it continued to be supported for a really long time. In fact, in South America, it continued to be supported longer than the Dreamcast. Think about that. Now, speaking of the Dreamcast, Sega would lose their way in the transition from the Genesis to the Saturn, and then eventually the Dreamcast. Now, I'm not saying those aren't fantastic systems. They are. I love the Dreamcast and I love the Saturn. By the way, happy 15th birthday, Dreamcast. But still, they never really captured the same everything that they had going on with the Genesis with any of those systems. The North American Genesis was the most successful console that Sega has ever released in any territory. Consider that. It went toe-to-toe with the Super Nintendo for an entire generation, and even at the end, things were still pretty well split evenly. Well, I would love to keep talking about Sega and the Genesis. It's a fantastic library, there's a ton of stuff going on there, but there are other games that need comparing. And Halloween is next month. Although, come to think of it, maybe I do have some more Sega to talk about.